What is good? What is good? What is popping? What is up? Welcome to another brand new tutorial today. First one of 2022. 1 second. Yes. First one of 2022. Brand new year. Brand new me. And I've been just super busy with everything. I'm working on new tracks. I have like an EP idea that I'm working on right now. I'm working on a lot of projects behind the scenes. I also got a new MacBook Pro, which took me an enormous time to set up. And let's not forget, I'm also starting to stream on Twitch. If you want to follow me, link will be in the description. I'm gonna do gameplays. I'm gonna do like music production from scratch, going through projects, general talks like Q&As or hangouts. I think it could be super sick. Yeah, don't forget to follow me. Yet again, link will be in the description below. Without further ado, let's jump into this video. It's been a while since I did a walkthrough or tutorial on one of my releases, one of my tracks. So of course my last release was last year, 17th of December, and I received a lot of requests for this remix. A lot of people wanted to know how I made this one, since it was crazy how well this track performed. Like literally the first day it had like almost 200,000 streams, maybe more, maybe less. If you haven't heard the remix yet, I'll also leave a link in the description, but I'll also play a little snippet of it right now so you know how the song sounds like. Hurricane after us. So yes, without further ado, this is the project, and let's just dive right into it. I'd say, you know what, let's just start with the break, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. So the break sounds like this.
Some people fall too fast, crash too hard. Some are fighting demons that never seem to leave them. Some people cut too deep, hard to reach, never answer phone calls. It hurts less if they don't talk. Holding our hearts in our hands, burying it.
Right, so I think I'm just gonna divide it into sort of these verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and then the drop section. So we're starting off with the first part of the track, and I think the most important part of the track, which is the vocal. The vocal sounds like this.
Some people fall too fast, crash too hard. Some are fighting demons that never seem to leave them.
So just super simple. Kept it really dry. The only cool thing what I did for the verse is I used manipulator to form and shift it at the end of that sentence. It's making it sound deeper. So I use manipulator for this, and if you look at the formant knob, you see how it like kind of pitches down.
Never seem to leave them.
Which gives it like a nice sort of like electronic feel. And then we combine that with a vocoder, and it sounds like this.
Some people fall too fast, crash too hard. Some are fighting demons.
I wanted the vocal to have a lot of body because there aren't a lot of instruments in the break. For this vocoder, it's super simple. I just added a manipulator. I added a de-esser. Then I added an vocal OTT to kind of compress the frequency bands, another EQ that's ducking out a little bit of the high end, and then a phaser flanger effect that makes the vocoder organic. That's the vocal, and then we have like all these sorts of extra elements that come in, and we have this sort of like guitar muted pluck. We combine that with a library from Electric Sunburst, or the library from Contact called Electric Sunburst, and that sounds like this. Basically mixing that with some nice Ableton stock echo. There was like some Valhalla room, still demo version, but whatever. We have some auto panning and an EQ8 that's cutting out the low end, and that creates like a really cool sort of instrumental pad. That's that, and then of course we have these dope effects, our kind of Kit 5 loop textures vinyl crackle. And then we have some really cool effects going on, and they sound like this. So basically how I made these vocal stems is I dragged the acapella in this plugin called Quanta, which is a granular synthesizer. I held it on one specific vowel, and then I dragged reverb onto it, froze the reverb, and then I duplicated that one. But then this one is actually -3, so it creates like this really nice harmonic bed. Then for other effects, I added like this vocal chop. People who have heard my Josh A collabs, they definitely can recognize this vocal chop. Then we go to the next part, which is this part.
Some people cut too deep, hard to reach, never answer phone calls. It hurts less if we don't talk. Holding our hearts in our hands, bury your head in the...
Right, so we're gonna start off with the drums, and they sound like this. Super simple. Then we go to this part, which is the Reese bass. Actually, shout out to my boys at That Behavior. They sent me this Reese bass, and I was like, you know what? This is actually super sick. It's a Serum preset, and literally the only thing that they've done is just made this super wide, just a saw wave unison at 16, and then filtered it, and then basically adding some overdrive, so you're really making that low end like really warm, cutting out a little bit of the mids. Yeah, that's basically it. We have this Hex Cougar sample. This is a sample from Hex Cougar, and it's called Synth One Shot X Love Pluck. What is on this pluck is a vintage verb. There's a filter, there is an EQ, and there is a utility. And I'm slightly making it mono, so it leaves more space for like the guitars, the vocals, stuff like that. We have some vocal one shots, so like the effects sound like this altogether. Just some downlifters, continuing with the vocal chop, and then we have like some really long sweeps and this vocal one shot as well. Combining that with a percussion from the original Hurricane track. And then we have the next part, which sounds like this.
Holding our hearts in our hands, bury your head in the sand, yeah, but we never get back. Folding the cards we've been dealt, feelings we shouldn't have felt, I'm going out of my head.
So this whole part it's basically like a loop of what I've done before, but I'm slightly adding some more rock elements, which makes the break a lot more energetic and a lot more like unique. So basically what I added, right, is I added this Travis Barker hi-hat loop. Mixing that with some more Hurricane stems. Mixing that with more guitars. This is where the first rock guitar comes in, which sounds like this. Which is, again, the Electric Sunburst library. We're layering that with this sort of like bell pluck. And then we have some uplifters, some crashes, nothing too crazy. I think it's mainly the next part that's going to add a lot more new elements, which is like kind of like the build up and like the main meat for the chorus.
3 cheers to the ones that don't grow up, 24 forever till we self-destruct. Lifestyles of the broken, dangerous. Maybe they'll name a hurricane after us. 3 cheers to the ones that made it. Top spot of your favorite playlist. Who cares how we got this famous, but maybe they'll name a hurricane after us.
What is happening with the drums? Let's isolate the drums. So for the build-up, basically a lot of the samples are the same. A lot of the loops, we just continue. The new samples are mainly war drums and chants. So we have this cymatics stomp, which sounds like this. We have this Fabian Mazur vocal chant. Mixing that with a custom Travis Barker drum fill, which is really adding that like acoustic flavor to the build-up, which is super awesome. And then we have this extra Travis Barker build-up snare, which sounds like this, with a lot of plugins on it actually, which I'm going to show you later. It's the snare from Travis Barker, and it's called Snare One Shot Close 01. This is the MIDI pattern, so it's a lot of playing with different velocities. It makes it sound realistic. And then I added a pitch bend automation, so like in the end it's really like lifting up. For the effects, we have an EQ boosting the mids. We have I don't even know what this is. This is like a stock Ableton thing. Adding this effect, yet again, I don't really know what this is, but it's just changing the whole snare, adding some compression. Two types of reverb. There is one reverb that's really short, and there is one reverb that's longer. And then combining that with a conga loop, which I think I got from Oddcube. And that's the build-up. Yeah. And then we have the rock guitars, which sounds like this. Then for the effects, it's a bunch of different uplifters, risers. Basically, it's a lot of effects, and they sound like this. Really cool, really cool. And that's that. That's like the break. And now let's play the drop. Probably one of the more in-depth drops I've made, because I really wanted it to be like super energetic. We start off with the drums, and they sound like this. So it's super like saturated, like driven. It's super acoustic as well. There's so much going on. Starting off with the kick, and it's a kick that I found in like a pack, I think from Oversampled. Super distorted, but I added some more things. I added another kick bus. I added a Pro MB that's kind of like reducing the sub and boosting a lot of like the lower mids, and then adding a limiter so it wasn't clipping. Super nice kick, super in your face. Adding that Elixir Wubs from Fabian. Adding some breaths that that Behavior and I used in our When the Party's Over cover. I added a San Holo snare mixed with a Panda Loops snare, which was also like Jaren inspired, and they sound like this. Also some acoustic crashes from Kashmir. Mixing that with some Fabian stuff, Ikali samples. Getting to the next part of the drop, added the same Travis Barker snare from the build-up, and it sounds like this. Some rides that are like, the first one is pitched differently than the second one. Crashes, I mean, yeah, that kind of stuff. Nothing too crazy. Then we go to the instruments, the synths. So I added, again, the guitar from the build-up, which sounds like this. The cool thing about this guitar though is it doesn't play during the entire drop. It only plays actually as a fill. Mixed with the drop synths, it sounds like this. So it almost becomes like a call and response method. It's like super saw, guitar, super saw, guitar. Let's start off with the main beef. We're gonna start off with the super saw that I made. It's Serum, and I think I made this myself, but I'm not too sure. I think so. There's this beef preset. There's a 1-knob rider, and then there's an EQ that's cutting off the low end. This is the next ARP. This is actually from the Excellent Sound pack, and then adding that arpeggiator and an EQ. The next sound is this one. This is a super saw sort of lead. We have this one. Just another really distorted Serum preset. This one. Again, a totally different preset. This one is a mono signal, mixing that with OTT Camel Crusher, an EQ8 auto filter, another beef multi-band compressor, 1-knob rider, and making this more mono. You want to have mono sounding instruments as well to fill up your entire spectrum. And then adding this one as energetic ARP, I think. This is a sound I made. Basically, it's Serum. There's an RC20 on this. There's Erosion, OTT, an EQ8, and then there's this arpeggiator that's arping it down. And then we have this part for the filtered section, which is this. Mixing that with a Vox pad. This is actually a synth I made, completely dry. It sounds like this. That voice is actually literally me. I think I just did or something like that. Put it in a sampler, added Redux, Overdrive, the OTT preset from AU5, Echo, Reverb, another EQ8 to removal the low end. Those are like the synths in the drop. Let's go on to the bass. Bass sounds like this. First bass is another sort of Jaren-inspired bass, but it's actually from my Splice pack. And I added some really big erosion on this. Erosion is key if you want to use it for bass. Then adding some EQ8. I wanted to cut off the low end so it leaves space for the sub. Adding this like EQ loudness preset from that behavior. Basically what this does is it's kind of like the same as a multi-band compressor, but instead of using the meters, you use volume. There's an overdrive, so it's a lot more body again, and OTT. Then we have this one, which is a bass that we use in the When a Party's Over cover again. We have this Reese preset, which is also from my Splice pack. I think there's like there's a really big hyperdimension going on here. That's the bass. Then we have the sub bass, and the sub bass sounds like this. It's only one layer actually. This is again Serum with an auto filter. And we have this whole effect section that sounds like this. There's a lot going on, but super quickly, the Hex Cougar riser in the drop is key. This riser is perfect because it's so saturated, it's so overdriven. Adding some down sweeps, adding this like animal growl, some like weird vocal effects and some glitches. Added this vocal thing. And then, well, yeah, we have some other things as well. some glitches, some claps, and some percussions, mixing that with this, which is the vocal cut.
Who cares how we got this famous, but maybe they'll name a hurricane after us.
So that vocal cut is basically from this part.
It's to the ones that made it.
So the net made it, and I cut that, and I was like, you know what? I could use it as like a sort of chant. As the effects, there's just overdrive, EQ8, reverb, a utility to make it louder, and a utility for the sidechain. And then there is one sort of really long decayed chant, which sounds like this, mixed with the normal vocal, and that's basically the drop leading you into the next part of the track, which is the second verse, and it sounds like this.
After us.
I think I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly because it's kind of the same as the previous part. The only difference is adding piano. And then we have this basic Reese, which is from Ableton itself. Like, this is so like warm and so moving. Like, I love this Reese. It's literally called basic Reese bass. So you can, if you use Ableton, you can just find it. Building it up again, the same sort of build up. So also the drop is the same, but of course that's why I wanted to add a second extended drop. Extended drop sounds like this, and this is my favorite part of the track. Extended drop, what is going on here? So the drums are sounding like this. It's a lot of the same samples as I use in like the main drop. The only new thing that I'm adding is this tom fill from Excellent. Adding the classic Travis Barker hi-hat loop. Mixing that with the super saws, which sound like this. The sounds are literally the same, right? There's one major difference though that I'm doing, because the main sound is not the super saw but this arp. Watch what the arpeggiator is doing. So I'm automating the rate of the arp the entire time. Mixed with that bass sounds like this. Then there is this like that glitch, which is this one. Really awesome sound. It's actually from the Chime Pack. Unfiltered, it sounds like this. I think it's even like a whole loop. So I only wanted to use that, you know, cutting that with an EQ, and that's the drop. Like really, that's a drop. Adding these like vocal samples again. And then the next part is the outro, which sounds like this. As always, a couple really important elements. Main element is, of course, the piano. Yeah, classic ending. Labs again, adding that Reese from the break. Is there anything new? I don't think so. I mean, there are like some vocal filtered effects. Anyways, that is literally the remix. This is how I made my official remix for Cheat Codes, Gray, and Tyson Ritter. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. As always, also for YouTube, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. And I'll see you guys very soon with more content, more music. So stay tuned. Cheers.